Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the meeting to order for the Oxnard City Council Public Works Transportation Committee meeting for October 10th. Madam Clerk, Assistant City Clerk, do you have anything you'd like to read, please?
Yes, Chair Perello. The public may view the meeting from home on Spectrum Channel 10, Frontier Channel 35, or at youtube.com/Oxnard News. Video recordings of the meeting are typically available online following the meeting at the city's website. The public may participate in the meeting in the following ways. 1. Attend the meeting in person at 305 West 3rd Street and submit a speaker card to the city clerk. 2. Submit a request to speak remotely by no later than 3 p.m. on the day of the meeting by using the form available at www.oxnard.org/citymeetings. Submit an email to cityclerk@oxnard.org or contact the city clerk's office at 805-385-7803 no later than 3 p.m. on the day of the meeting. To provide public comment during the meeting, please dial 888-475-4499 and enter the meeting ID and passcode located on the agenda. Public comments will be taken following the announcement of the item. Detailed participation instruction can be found at www.oxnard.org/citymeetings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you reading that. The next part of the meeting start with roll call, posting the agenda, and a flag salute. And when it gets to the flag salute, we're going to have our waste superintendent director, Mr. Jose Arreola, lead the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll take the roll call, please.
Member Zaragoza?
Here.
Member Valenzuela Zavala?
Present.
Chair Perello?
Here.
We have a quorum, and the agenda for this meeting was posted on the City Hall Bulletin Board on October 3rd, 2023.
And we could have the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll take a moment of silence for what's happening in the Middle East. No matter your views on one side or the other, loss of life to anybody is a big deal, and there's a lot of civilians who are losing their lives.
Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Assistant City Clerk, do we have any public comments for items not on the agenda?
Chair Peralta, we have no public speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is a consent agenda. City Clerk Department, subject approval of the minutes. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee approve the minutes from September 26th, 2023, regular meeting as presented. Do we have any additions, corrections, or requests on the minutes?
I don't know.
Do we have a recommendation?
Move to approve.
I'll second it. Roll call, please. Or do we use the clicker? Or use it? Okay, we can use it. Please vote.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, and there was no public comments on that item, correct?
Chair Peralta, that's correct. No public speakers virtually or in person.
Thank you. The next item, reports. Number 1. We have 2 reports this evening. The first one's the City Attorney's Department. Subject, resolution of the City Council of the City of Oxnard adopting a conflict policy and a procurement procedures for design-build projects. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend the City Council adopt a resolution entitled, quote, a resolution of the City Council for the City of Oxnard, California, adopting a conflict of interest and procurement procedures to allow the city to use the design-build method for certain eligible public projects in accordance with Public Contract Code sections 22160 through 22169, end quote. There was a presentation on Measure M, and I don't know that we will have a presentation, but there's an opportunity to ask questions this evening. Are there any public comments on this item?
Chaparral, there's no public speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Do either of my committee members have questions or comments on this item?
Who is that, Michael or whoever? Anyway, this is kind of probably exciting to read about this. The design bill is a professional design where you have a contract with, for a single contract within the city. And some of the benefits that I read here was that the design bill can give you higher quality of work, greater cost certainty, and of course, faster completion and eliminating finger pointing, which I think is really important between the designer and the contractor. And my understanding that this is for facilities that are $1 million and over. Is that correct? For the design bill, it has to be $1 million and over, or am I reading it wrong?
Yeah, that's correct. It's for projects that are $1 million and over.
And over. And then my understanding also that any certain qualifications, we use it for infrastructure, we cannot use it for other streets and so forth, and mainly for design build entities such as the skating ring we have in Colonia.
Excuse me. Yeah, correct. And basically what we're allowed to use it for, or a city's allowed to use it for, is construction of a building or buildings, such as a fire station, or improvements directly related to the construction of a building or building. And since the city operates a recycled water facility, a wastewater facility, and an environmental resource or a trash facility, since we're a local operator of those, we are allowed to use design build for those three things. We aren't allowed to use design build for any other type of project. You can use it for park and recreation facilities, which is what the skate park falls into. So that will be the city's first design build project to go through this process.
One of the things that's interesting, Mr. Chair, about this design bill is that it doesn't necessarily have to be given to the low bid, but to best value. Can you explain that a little bit more for me?
So best value means that we look at the totality of the qualifications and what we're going to get from the contractor and their design expertise. And then another important thing to look at with best value is the life cycle costs over a 15-year period is what is mandated by the statute. And that's important because when you come to sometimes a low bid, you might save, say, $300,000 or $400,000 on the front end, but then that building or whatever infrastructure you build will then have a higher cost to maintain and operate over the life cycle. So we may get maybe a higher cost up front, but we have significantly lower operational and maintenance costs over 15 years. So that's something to consider that's different and sets us apart from low bid.
And one of the things too, Mr. Chair, is that the city has to prepare a template, Michael, or something that we really want so they can follow that template, if I'm using that as the correct info.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor. Michael Wolf, Director of Public Works. That's correct. There's government code sections that dictate all the different processes that we have to take once we have identified a design build. So one of those is to develop a template for evaluation. I think that's what the city attorney is discussing right now, and we can make that either a low value, low bid, or best value, depending on the criteria that we want to set.
And do we set up a committee for that to do that, or does Public Works set it, or we just follow some guidelines from the state or from?
There are state guidelines. The Department of Industrial Relations has prepared a pre-qualification, like it's like a packet, and it has about 60 or so questions in there. That's the starting point, and then from there, as the city, we can include whatever else we feel would be important to the project. Basically, what the project is, the scope, what we're hoping to get out of it, our cost estimate. And then there's a list of other items that we can go through and ask them. And basically, we want to know what type of an organization the design build entity is. And then we want to know that they have to use a skilled and trained workforce. So they have to provide an enforceable commitment, either at the pre-qual stage or at the RFP stage. We need to have all of their licenses and registration. We need to have evidence that they have the appropriate insurance, and that includes errors and omissions, since this is a design and construction project. Lastly, we need information from them on their workers' compensation and workers' safety program. So basically, they'll have to let us know if there's been any reportable injury or illnesses. And then there's a specific formula in the labor code that will dictate their safety record, whether they're very high on the safety scale or very low. So that's something else to take into consideration. And
Finances.
Finances, yep, thank you. And then, of course, their safety record, and they have to have a safety program, and a lot of times you will get that when you hire a skilled and trained workforce.
And my apologies, Chair, one more last question. How about at labor? Any concerns with labor?
I'm not sure I follow your.
Or unions and
Yes,
and
okay.
contractors?
So that's the skilled and enforceable, the skilled and trained workforce. So the city doesn't have a project labor agreement or anything like that, and we're not required
To do so.
to have that unless it's required by statute. And the design build statute requires that we have that enforceable commitment. So basically.
It's built into it.
It's built into it.
Okay.
So we have to go onto the Department of Industrial Relations and look at their list of qualified apprenticeship programs. The first one that comes to mind, the most obvious, would be the Carpenters Union, something
Right.
similar to that. And
That's
so
what
that would be,
Carpenters Union is what I was thinking about, yeah.
yeah, that would be built into our contract documents.
Thank you.
Keep asking if you got more questions. You have
That's,
more questions?
I'm good.
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you very much. In answering the last question, whether the company that gets the job is a union shop or a non-union shop, these are public monies. Doesn't the prevailing wage rule come into play?
Yes, it does.
And can you give us, just for whoever's going to ever listen to this, what the prevailing wage means? And how it comes into play, please?
The prevailing wage is the wage established by the director of the Department of Industrial Relations, and then there's going to be certain categories and classes depending on what the job is. You're going to have, carpenters and masons and plumbers and electricians, and then the apprentice and journeyman levels. So you'll have a different wage for each person. And depending on what the schedule wage is, our design build entity that's selected must pay those wages. And in addition to that, they have to have a commitment that they're going to employ laborers that are coming out of an accepted apprenticeship program.
On the staff report, the fourth paragraph of the staff report has to do with public contract code section, and it's sort of a conflict of interest. Can you read that for us and explain what that means? And I would just like to say this first. I think a lot of people understand what the conflict of interest is from just, hopefully they're paying attention to the news. If somebody gives you $500,000 to take a vacation, that's a conflict of interest. Or if they help you make the payments on your house, that's a conflict of interest. If they are in any position to benefit from your decision, your position. So go forward.
Yeah, so design build requires cities to have an organizational conflict of interest policy, and they have a very specific policy that's used by most cities, and that's the one that's proposed here. And in it, an organizational conflict is defined as circumstances arising out of a consultant or a contractor's existing or past activities, business or financial interests, familial relationships, contractual relationships, and or organizational structure, such as their parent and subsidiary of companies. And any of those relationships, if you will, if they have a result where there's an impairment or a potential impairment of the consultant or contractor's ability to basically render an impartial, say, RFP to the city, say because the, Chair Perello, your son or daughter is head of the design build or whatever, that would be an organizational conflict. And so they would be precluded unless there's an appropriate screen. The next one is it goes even broader than that. If there's some sort of unfair competitive advantage to any bidder, say they've worked on it or they helped us come up with a design a long time ago for this, or they know some extra information about the project that might give them some sort of edge in bidding, we would prohibit them, or they would have to at least disclose that in their pre-qualification process so that we could then make an informed decision. Lastly, again, it's very broad. If there's any perception of impropriety, if there's any potential conflict, no matter how remote, they need to disclose it to us. And then they have to go through and write down any potential conflict. And then once we have that information, we will then run it through a conflict analysis. We can see, is it remote? Is it direct? Can we put up a screen so that it looks partial? And if we can't do that, then they will not be either pre-qualified or awarded the contract. And they have an ongoing duty. So if they are awarded the contract and a conflict comes up, they have to let us know immediately. And if it's substantial enough, we can terminate the contract. If it's remote, we can put up an appropriate screen and move forward.
Thank you very much for that. Reading the newspaper, the things that have happened in other cities, not this one, with respect to conflicts, it's a very big deal. And there are sanctions if people are found or companies are found to do something other than the taxpayers paying the bill. There are sanctions against the people that are doing it. There was a question asked by one of my committee members. The second paragraph of the staff report, I appreciate the staff report, very detailed. The California State Legislative Analyst's Office, and the reason we're going this way, in 2010, summarized 15 design-build projects awarded by counties and made several observations. These observations were used to support an expanded design-build statute available for more agencies and project types throughout the state, which is what we're trying to do tonight, or what the council will be doing when this goes to the council, if approved here. They were able to come in, beg your pardon, of the 5 projects, 2 were completed below cost, 2 projects were completed at the estimated cost, and 1 project was completed approximately 5% over cost. I wanted to ask the Public Works Director, on a project, we have a contingency when a project comes in and we put in a certain percent for over. Is that 10% we put in?
Typically, we would request 10%.
So on a project like this, if I'm reading this, they would have still come underneath the expectation if it would have been here.
Yeah,
The other was this, I beg your pardon, somebody say.
No, I just was going to say for clarification, sometimes we only ask for 5%, sometimes we ask for 15%, depending on the type of project. If there's a lot of underground work, we may ask for more because there's a lot of uncertainties. So, but our traditional request is 10%.
I learn something every day. Thank you. Thank you for adding that. Because the second part of it was the projects were completed earlier or on target with respect to timeline. That's a big deal. And from having been served on a school, the Juan Soria School, some of the problems, and being involved as a just member of the public with some of the, bluntly, fiascos the Rio School did, this is a big deal. The time and the money is a big deal. I think this is well worthwhile. I support this thing. Do we have any comments from the public on this? Ms. Lee?
Chair Perallo, no, there's no public speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Do we have a recommendation by the committee?
So moved.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion passes 3-0.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is number 2, Public Works Agreement. Beg your pardon, Public Works Department. Subject, Agreement 324-00108 with Los Angeles Truck Centers, LLC, DBA, Velocity Truck Centers for repair and maintenance of autocar refuse trucks, Allison transmissions, Freightliner trucks, and Detroit and Cummins engines. The recommendation that the Public Works and Transportation Committee recommend that the City Council approve and authorize an agreement with Los Angeles Truck Centers, LLC, DBA, Velocity Truck Centers for a 1-year term with the option to extend for 4 consecutive 1-year periods for a maximum contract term of 5 years and a total contract not to exceed amount over the entire possible contract term of $1,250,000 for the repair and maintenance of autocar refuse trucks, Allison transmissions, Freightliner trucks, and Detroit and Cummins engines as part of the city's equipment fleet on an on-call as-needed basis. Again, there's a Measure M presentation on this. Madam Clerk, do we have any comments on this item?
Chair Perrello, we have no public speakers virtually or in person for this item.
Do the committee members have any comments?
Yeah, I think, first, to start off, we do have a Velocity Truck Center here in Oxnard, which I think is important. And the report states, that of course, we have Freightliners and auto cars that use the Allison transmission, Cummins engines, and Detroit engines. And those are my understanding that we have to go with the original equipment manufacturer. We can't go with anybody else for that equipment or for repairs and so forth, Mr. Chair. So consequently, as a result of that, they really end up with a sole source product on that. And do we have any problems with that because they're sold initially?
No, there's no problems. If
No
there's only one that can provide the service, the city fills out a form, they go through their process, and then they can use this.
Because it's their engines and they guarantee the engines and make sure that if they go wrong, Michael, during the warranty and so forth.
Correct, that's the key there, is the warranty. We want to make sure we keep the warranty in place, so we want the original manufacturer to be able to do maintenance on those to keep the warranties.
And we have a lot of equipment that, it repetitively used. For example, the auto cars are constantly up and down, up and down, up and down, and in the streets and so forth. And every 50 foot, for example, residential, they're stopping and going, and this takes. And also the fire department is a 24/7 operation. So consequently, we need, if something goes wrong with a fire engine or fire truck or whatever, we need them to be there for repairs to make sure that our equipment is operating properly. To me, it's a health and safety issue here, personally, after reading this whole thing. So one of the things that I like is that Velocity is here in Oxnard, and I was trying to find out where in the heck it was. It's over on Rose and Camino del Sol, I think is what it is, Brian, yeah, which is really great. I mean, it's right close to the yard and so forth, so. And of course, they're looking for a 1 year with potential 4 consecutive 1 year periods for a maximum of 5 years. And $1.25 million, Mr. Chair. That's all I have. That's all.
No questions.
I appreciate the fact that we're going to do this. We want some people with this is something you just don't get a guy off the street that knows how to repair this stuff, or has the equipment and the tools to repair it, can bring it to their shop if need be. On that point, are these repairs conducted in our facilities or are they taken to their shop? And the Velocity site, I'm told, was, according to staff report, was formerly Big T, had been in operation for quite some time.
Chair, if I could, we'll have Jose come up, our fleet manager. He'll be able to answer these questions.
I just want to say this before you get to the microphone. I've
had
come across a couple of refuse trucks recently. I did see a refuse truck pick up something, some stuff spilled out of it before he got it over the top. He stopped the truck, got out of the truck, picked it up, put it in the trash can, and picked it up. That's, you got some good people working there, and they're conscientious for the city of Oxnard. Thank you.
Yes. Jose Arreola, good evening, first of all. Jose Arreola, Fleet Services Manager. To answer your question, the vehicles will be serviced at their location, not at our location. In a very rare occasion, they will come out to our facility and do some sort of programming or something that's under warranty and doesn't warrant tow or something like that. That's too expensive. They'd rather just send their service truck and get it done at our shop, but that's a very rare occasion.
Okay, thank you. The staff report indicates that we have 78 autocar refuse trucks, 6 Freightliner dump trucks, and 20 fire apparatus. That's a lot of, I look at it from having had a brother-in-law that's in this business in some previous time, that's a lot of tires, and that's a lot of everything. So this is a good deal. And if we can get people and save us money and guarantee to the work product, because in the repair business, there's nothing worse than a comeback. Mechanic A fixed it and goes out on the job, and the driver goes to work at 5:30 in the morning with the truck, and it won't work, or it's leaking oil all over. Those eat us alive. And I don't hear complaints like that. So thank you.
And Mr. Chair, those Cummings and Freightliners, they've been in existence for years and years.
Yes.
You know, they're just good. We used to, I won't mention names of the trucks that we used to get here in Oxnard. They used to break down every 4, 5, 6 months, you know, but when we got the Freightliners and Cumming engines and Allisons, you know, you can't beat them.
Yeah, and those are some of the reasons why we specify those types of engines and equipment on our fleet, because they are proven that they last a long time, and you know that's why we use them.
And besides the engines and so forth, the frames are really heavy-duty frames on those trucks anyway, the Allison trucks, or
Yes.
auto cars and Freightliners and so forth.
Yes.
So,
Any more? And again, Madam Clerk, there's any comments?
Chair Porello, there's no public speakers virtually or in person.
Okay, please vote.
need a motion?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
that's okay.
Please vote. Thank you.
Motion passes 3-0.
Do we have from committee members any items for future agendas?
I don't, sir, no.
Nope.
No, sir.
And myself, I don't, but I'd like to make a comment. As I mentioned earlier, I've had some interaction with the trash people and the driving the trucks. I'm very impressed. The repairs that are being made on streets and potholes, again, very impressed, and Public Works in general. Pretty impressive outfit. You guys are doing a good job. And I appreciated the city attorney's office with the explanations and the answers.
Mr. Chair, can I share a comment? I just want to share a comment. I happened to the Oxnard PD with the chief, Jason Benitez, over at Starbucks at the Esplanade, and there was an attorney there that worked at the tower there, and he just mentioned to me that he was extremely happy, and I want to share this over again, that we have a great city council and that we have a great administration, you know, that's running the city, and he says it's just happy to see that. So I just wanted to share that. And he mentioned it to Chief Benitez and some people that were there at Starbucks. We had the cancer drive, you know, with fundraising, but I just wanted to share that, and especially Public Works. So Michael, I just wanted to, and Brian, thank you, and young man, thank you for the good work. Thank you.
And I'd like to thank the city attorney for bringing her son in. He got to watch a very fast committee meeting. And I think it would not be hard to say, well, buy those people that are complimenting us a cup of coffee if they'd go on the internet, and it would kind of diffuse some of the people that are doing nothing but complaining. This is a hell of a city and the people working for it. You got a good crew.
And
Management on down.
administration also included the attorney's office. Thank you.
With that, this meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.